Hello, I'm going to guide you guys today on how to create a positive or a negative space dot. I have an example of both a positive space dot, a dot by coloring in your dot, or a negative space dot, which is a dot by not coloring your dot. For this project, you can use whichever material you choose. If you have markers, crayons, color pencils, paints, collage, it is up to you. Throughout the years, I've experimented with different materials in the classroom as well, but it does come in handy to have something circular to trace. So for my tracer, I'm just going to be using this large bottle of paint. I'm going to put it kind of in the middle of my page, and I'm going to trace around it. Right? You can do one dot, a positive or a negative dot, but if you choose, you can do both. All right, so I'm just going to give you an example. So if I were to color this, I need to decide if I'm going to make it a positive dot or a negative dot. So if I wanted to make it a positive dot, I color inside the dot. If I wanted to make it a negative dot, I'm going to color around the dot. I'm going to use a slight mixture of materials, just because that's something that I want to experiment with. One of the great things about doing art at home is you guys can experiment with what materials you have at home. So I'm going to be using some watercolors first, and I'm just going to I'm going to do a positive dot. So I'm going to remember everything I know about coloring with watercolors, and I'm coloring just inside my dot. I'm going to try to color it in as fully as possible. I don't really want to leave white spaces, what I say all the time. Remember, we are aiming for that high level of craftsmanship. And since I did cool color dots on my first example, I'm going to use some warm colors on my second example. Except that I thought this was purple when it was in my palette, but it's actually blue. All right, and if you do go outside your lines a little bit, that's okay. Remember, we turn our mistakes into masterpieces, so we just have to figure out how to make it work for our project. Right, and in watercolors, I also have to remember to wash my brush between each color change. That way I don't muddy the colors that are in my palette. All right. And once I'm happy with my dot, depending on what material you used, you might need to let it dry. Maybe you used crayons, maybe you use color pencils, maybe you use markers, and that is up to you. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm actually going to add additional details in markers.